Good afternoon, Grand Bahama. Alan Cornelius Johnson, critical thinker, once again here on the air to talk to you, my Bahamian people, on the Impact Radio Show. I thank you once again for tuning in. I hope the information I can provide can be edifying to you for the growth and development of our country, for yourself personally, as well as those around you. Today we are going to talk on some topics of your choice. After the first half an hour, I'll take your calls at 225-6800, 225-6800. Let's begin with a prayer, please. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for once again allowing us to be in your presence, giving us another day to fulfill the purpose that is called upon us in this life. We ask that you bless individuals that are listening to the show. We ask you to bless those that are not. We ask you to empower us with the information, knowledge, and wisdom to execute what is necessary for the growth and the development and the bringing of your kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven. We thank you for providing us with the resources that is necessary for the growth and development of our country and the world as a whole. Continue to bless us, continue to guide us. Have a special blessing upon our leaders so that they come to know the needs of the people and they are met in the most fulfilling way. We ask this and many other prayers from myself and from those that's listening and those that's not, to be answered based on your will, not ours. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, the Impact Show is a new initiative that I was anticipating getting going for quite some time, and now that I have, and people always say that I'm never lost for words. The difference now is that I have to now put it in a calculated, informed manner so that you can be able to digest the information, as opposed to the 3 or 4 minutes that's generally allowed to me on the open airways when I call in. The Impact and Impact Radio stands for influence, motivation, purpose, action, commitment, and trust. Impact Radio. Influence, motivation, purpose, action, commitment, and trust. Today I want to talk about whatever subjects that you feel after the first half an hour. I can be reached at 225 in the studio, 225-6800, 225-6800, so that we can just basically ask your questions and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. And if I don't possess the information, I'll write it down for you, and I would make sure to reach out to you on the next show, next Wednesday at 1:30. I'll make sure to bring the answers to you. I am a candidate in the local government election coming up this Monday on the 23rd. I encourage, no matter what area you live in, from West End to East End, I encourage you to go out and vote, exercise that right that our parents and forefathers fought for. There are many around the world that is dying for a privilege that has been given to you, and that's the right to express your voice through the ballot box. Believe it or not, if you don't vote, those who do will speak for you. If you do not vote, those who do will speak for you. I'm going to talk a little bit for the first half an hour with some of the plans and ambitions that I have for my city of Freeport. And a lot of time people say I'm running for East Grand Bahama, but we must recognize that we are a collective. The East Grand Bahama is in the city of Freeport. Freeport is on the island of Grand Bahama. The island of Grand Bahama is in a country called the Bahamas, and the Bahamas is in the planet we call the world, and so we are all interconnected, and so anything that we do affects all of us, and so what we have to do is recognize that as a collective. A lot of the Bahamians on Grand Bahama may not necessarily reside in the district that I represent, but I want you to know that I will make it my best in my agitation not to limit my voice to the needs of East Grand Bahama. They will be my focal point, because if I'm elected, that will be the responsibility that they are sending me to that particular location for. And it's asking that when you go to the polls that you actually choose individuals that is most competent, that is most able to represent the collective views that is needed, not just in East Grand Bahama. And I'm talking about beyond the speed bumps, beyond the parks, beyond the lighting. There's needs in Grand Bahama that affects all of us. The Hawksbill Creek Agreement that is coming up for renegotiation, not the Hawksbill Creek Agreements, but tenets of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, such as the real property tax, that local government should play an active role in the negotiation and making sure the views of that particular area is expressed. Make sure that the individuals that you send, they possess the necessary intellect, requirements, or understanding and comprehension of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement to represent your interests as homeowners, as business owners in this particular arena. There's value-added tax that actually affects Freeport in a unique way. Unique in the fact that it affects businesses and the cost of doing business. And local government is not just to be a voice for those minor things that I speak of, but local government is to be a voice for the entire area that you represent. If you understand governance in its proper form should be from the bottom up, not from the top down. And so local government becomes the first step. No, actually it's the second step in your voice, in your ability to express agitation or demands made upon governance. The first step in your agitation and your needs and demands is you speaking up. Because whether we represent you in local government or represent you as a member of parliament or represent you in a global environment, but we use those particular things from local government as well as a member of parliament as government in the Bahamas. They are supposed to represent your voice, and each one is a different tier of the whole, but ultimately they are the whole. And so each one of those voices are to represent you in the most harmonious manner that is possible. There is no isolation of local government from central government, and there should be no isolation of local government from you, the people that actually send them there. And so essentially for me, Impact Radio also means informed members planning and accessing choices together. And again, let me repeat that. For me, it also means informed members planning and accessing choices together. And that's us, the community. We are members of this community. We're members of East Grand Bahama. We're members of Freeport. We're members of Grand Bahama. And we're also members of the Bahamas as a whole. So everything that we do must be done in a wholesome manner in consideration. Those of us that are representing local or seeking to represent local government in the city of Freeport must be informed concerning how does the Hawksbill Creek Agreement ties into local governance and the requirements for interaction between the Grand Bahama Port Authority, which is acting as some people identify a quasi-government, and that's with a certain prerogative of government that they have as operating, and how does local government tie into that since they represent the voice of the people. We have to understand the Hawksbill Agreement is an agreement, it's a tripartite agreement. It's an agreement between the Grand Bahama Port Authority, the licensees of the Freeport area, and the people of the Bahamas represented by their government. So you see, you are a participant in the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, not just here in Freeport, but every citizen in the Bahamas is a contractor or contractee of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement because the government represents you. The benefits of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement may be limited to the Freeport area, but the intent of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement was for it to benefit all Bahamians, not licensees, but all Bahamians. The property owners in Freeport are quasi-licensees, though you may not have a vote, but you are a quasi-licensee of the Port Authority, and as such you are subject to the benefits and tenets of this Hawksbill Creek Agreement. And so for those of you that live in East Grand Bahama, you must understand that you are affected by this agreement and what will happen to it. We have the real property tax discussion that is up for renewal on August 3rd of next year, that we have to make sure that we have a voice from the local aspect as well from the national aspect in expressing our concerns and how does it affect us. How do we measure that which we are seeking to manage? And so we must have competent individuals to be able to do that. Value-added tax is a unique dimension, and again, local governance is more than sidewalks and speed bumps and parks and lighting. It's about changing lives. It's about building people. And it's about building people and making sure that they have a voice and being able to educate, inform, and empower. And so choose those in each of your constituencies. In Freeport, it's the Central, Marco City, Pine Ridge, and East Grand Bahama. And then you have the East and the West. But the decision affects all of us. None of us is as secure as all of us can be. And I ask you to keep that in mind. I'm going to take the opportunity to talk about a couple of the things that I am seeking to do in the East Grand Bahama. But again, these are some changes that's going to happen in East Grand Bahama more specifically. And first of all, let me say, if you need roads, if you need the speed bumps, if you need the lighting for your area, I'm going to agitate for those. If you need the parks in your particular area, that's an absolute. That is something we're going to argue for. But we must understand that local government does not do these things in isolation, as can often be miscued in the conversation that is going on. There's a partnership between the Grand Bahama Port Authority, or there should be a partnership between the Grand Bahama Port Authority and local governance. It's something that I see that is lacking in that capacity. I don't know whether it's through ignorance of those that may currently hold the post, or just through neglect. They're the ones who would have to answer that for themselves personally, but I absolutely believe that there has to be a higher level of accountability for things that is happening in Freeport as a whole, in East Grand Bahama. There are individuals that have part of developments, that the Grand Bahama Port Authority was the ones who granted the license, the one who set the rules for these developments to be able to function, from paved roads to other infrastructures. And the question is that when you go to the Grand Bahama Port Authority, I'm often told that they tell them that, oh, it's the developer's fault. Well, it's not the developer's fault if you fail to hold them accountable, because it's you are the ones that market yourself as being the authority. The Grand Bahama Port Authority is the word. Authority is the word that you represent. That you would give whoever licensees and make sure that those individuals are accountable in that respect. And so, if you fail, it's incumbent upon us to demand that you be held accountable in the same respect. That you have failed to hold those you give licenses responsible to act in accordance with the rules and regulations that you set down in negotiations. You sat it down and said, these are the rules that you'll abide by. And so you then make demands of the homeowners to pay service fees, and many of them are beginning to feel that they are not getting what they're paying for. There's a part of that I want you to listen to me very carefully. After the 12 o'clock hour, I'm going to explain to you the type of governance I want in Freeport, and which includes the something called prerogative, where it is long called for, it's long overdue, that local governance or local government in Freeport should insist and demand that the Parliament of the Bahamas use this prerogative to give full local governance to Freeport, at least based on the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, which is is a form of a municipality, taking the licensing as well as the taxation and other aspect of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement and turn it over to the people. And those people will be the representative voice as local government. And ladies and gentlemen, it has been done. And in fact, under the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, that prerogative has been exercised before. And so it's simply put that we just have to make a demand that we the people want to be separated, not separated, we want to be in charge of making the decision that best reflective of exactly what it is we want to do. Let me just go through some of the things that I, as a representative for East Grand Bahama, will do. But it's Freeport as a whole, and Grand Bahama, you could add yourself to that, because those of you that have heard me over on the radio and television, and as well as on social media for the last 10 years, you can see my agitation for change and the development of Bahamians have not changed regardless of the government in place. And so during the pre-LP first reign, I was demanding certain things be done. From the BTC deal, I was making those demands from 2005. From when I came in, I've challenged Leon Williams in the public forum right there in Christ the King and in 8 Mile Rock concerning making some changes. Those changes was never made. Eventually, we sold our assets. And I've never stopped arguing that we can't do anything. If you name any of the major arguments for economic empowerment of Bahamians, I've been in that forefront. This is not a battle that I've started in a quest to get into local governance. This is not a battle that I will quit if I don't make it there. This is a passion for me. This is a desire to see all Bahamians empowered. All Bahamians have an equitable opportunity in their countries to enjoy the wealth of the Bahamas. That's why it's called Commonwealth, where the wealth should be common. What I'm seeking to bring to East Grand Bahama and East Freeport in the city, this is the city of Freeport in the east in the city of Freeport. I am seeking to bring a representative and transparent governance. Essentially, we have local government practitioners that they say they will hear the people, they will integrate with you, they will connect with you. And so when you hear these things being done, you ask them to produce the record of their performance for the last 3, 6, 9 years, and they'll simply tell you, well, this is a summary. Well, how did you determine what is it that was needed for me? So your representation was not necessarily for me. And if you were there for 3 years or 6 years or 9 years, whatever amount of time you were there, I should be able to see, feel, and know your presence. I don't care how small it is, it has to be in the smallest way. It cannot be, well, I did something for the other guy and I'll do it for you this time. That's a simple principle. If you have a pizza, it's no such thing as all the pizza for me today and all the pizza for you tomorrow. If there's 8 of us and there's 8 slices in the pizza, we should all enjoy the benefits of the pizza today. And tomorrow, we should all enjoy the benefits of that pizza tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after. The all for me, or all for one particular area, or all for special interest has to end. And so we must bring about representative governance, meaning that you must be in contact with the people. I'm a technology individual. I know the processes for which to make yourself available to individuals, by phone, by fax, by whatever. And I can confidently say that I'm probably the only person running for local government who will say that he will commit 24 hours a day for the next 3 years to making sure that you are representative in tools that has to be done. If you do not live in East Freeport, East Grand Bahama, I encourage you that each of us have friends and families that you know them in East Grand Bahama. Many people have told me during this campaign that they're just not going to be bothered. They don't see any effect. And in spite of my argument, I can't spend an hour to 2 hours with each person trying to convince them. But for those of you that have known my agitation over the years, I encourage you to call individuals in East Grand Bahama and tell them that if you were not going out to vote, please take the opportunity. Let's see what Cornelius Johnson, critical thinker, can actually do. Let's test him on these theories that he's been putting forth on the air. Let's see if he can actually bring them forth. And so what it does, it simply says, it puts me to the test that if I don't produce, then guess what? I have been flamming, as the been said. I've been flamming for the last 10 years. Okay? It'll end. It'll end this whole so-called pseudo-intellectual argument I've been having. Put me to the test in electing you. If you live in East Grand Bahama, call a family, call a friend, and tell them, please, go to the polls. Take the few minutes, mark the X for Cornelius Johnson. Just remember, Johnson is the name, and the clock is the symbol. Mark the X. Let's see what he's going to do. Let them know that you feel that my representation will expand to the entire island, because it includes my whole process includes the entire Grand Bahama. I'm just running for East Grand Bahama, for which I will give them a special focal point. Transparent governance. Again, we should be able to, at any given time, to go exactly into our local government office and make the demand to be able to see the records, how our money is being spent. What is the plan of action for today, for next week, next month, next year, or the next 3 years? We should be able to have that conversation whenever we want. After all, you elected them; they work for you, not the other way around. You should have transparent governance. You should not be able to get a summary of a budget to say, well, we fixed all of the parks and that's all the money's done. In fact, for the last 2 years so far that I know, they've asked for millions of dollars in funding, and they have not spent it. They have sent money back to central government. How is it, with all the needs in Grand Bahama, local government has the ability to send money back to central government? That does not make sense. And then you say, give me another chance. Well, you've done it for 2 years, and chances are, if you look at the 2013 budget, looking at habit, you would see that money have went back. So we have to have transparent government to understand where have our money being spent, where is our money going, and how do you plan to execute it. And we should have a conversation. How can I spend your money without consulting you? It doesn't make sense. You should be actively involved regardless of it. And so I don't just simply say, because of your absence, I have the absolute right to do as I feel. It should never happen, which brings to accountable governance. Local government practitioners have to agitate on behalf of the citizens for that particular area, to other members of local government, to hold them accountable as a whole, because Once you are elected in the city of Freeport, you are now operating as the collective. You're now representing the entire city of Freeport. And so I'll be agitating in their particular budget for the needs of East Grand Bahama, that they be a focal point in a particular area. We're not looking for some strongman tactics where one individual controls and micromanages local government. It's supposed to be the collective intelligence. Would we look about accountable governance? We have to begin to hold the Grand Bahama Port Authority responsible for the things that is happening in each of our area. The Grand Bahama Port Authority is responsible for the regulation of the power company, something that is has simply been detrimental, devastating to homes, families, and business. Local government has to have a voice. If you're in East Grand Bahama and you have a light bill, if you're living in darkness, if you're living without water, you're living without all of these things, there has to be an agreement. There has to be an agitation from local government perspective to the Grand Bahama Port Authority and to the national governments to bring relief. There has to be a reason. This is not, nobody just randomly gets up and decides that, you know what, I'm going to live in the dark. I'm going to live without the sanitation of water in the home, the necessity for drinking, for bathing, and for personal use as to using the bathroom. No one chooses that. There has to be a reason it happens. But local government is supposed to be your voice in that, in those issues surrounding you. Local government is also to work in cooperation with the Member of Parliament for that particular area. The Member of Parliament is your voice in the House of Assembly. Local government is your voice on the council. And so essentially, if it goes up the tier, then local government should be aware of the needs and to make sure that that Member of Parliament is addressing the needs in your absence. That is what is needed for that particular area. You must demand. And so local government is not about speed bumps, it's not about parks, and it's not about light. It is about people. Build people, they will build parks. Build people, they will build speed bumps. Build people, they will pay their own light bills. We simply have to begin to focus on building people, and that is what we have to do. And so it brings me to another aspect. And so where it goes to is, when you begin to look at that particular aspect, it's called job creation initiatives. Local government should not be about giving jobs to individuals. Local government should be about making demands of the Grand Bahama Port Authority and from the national governance of the national government of the country to bring job creation initiatives to a particular area. We have billions of dollars supposedly of projects that's going around the Bahamas. Where are they in Freeport? Where are they in Freeport? Where is the voice on local government for these things to be in Freeport? We have tremendous opportunities here. We have an opportunity to make this a college town. We have an opportunity to attract universities. Let's use an example. Every single year, even here in the Bahamas, you have hundreds of students that are denied access to tertiary education in the U.S. They can't go to college because the American embassy say, well, you don't meet the financial requirements or whatever reason for you to go off to college. This is the 21st century. Why can't we have satellite colleges here in the Bahamas? What you have is you have people from Jamaica, Haiti, and entire Caribbean, from Puerto Rico, from the Lesser Antilles, you have them from an entire South America that are having the same problems in entering the United States. Now, let's consider that there's at least 1,000 people a year, 2,000, 3,000 people from the millions of people. Why can't Freeport, the center of the hub of technology, and I'm going to explain it in a second, why can't Freeport become the location for those satellite schools to sit and operate so our students can actually attend school through virtual platforms? MIT, one of the most premier colleges, now offers free online tertiary education. In certain countries like Haiti and other places, they may not have access to the digital infrastructure. We could create an environment for them to come here to have access to our digital infrastructure just to attend colleges and university as a whole. And so why not just make this environment so they could come here, attend digitally, or attract colleges and universities to set up satellite colleges here to tap into the thousands of individuals, or you could say to tap into the millions of individuals that is in the Caribbean as well as South America to attend college right here in Freeport without the requirements of entering into America. We have the opportunity where we had them talk a lot of time about medical tourism, but it's talk way before this stem cell bill. We have heard it talk about medical tourism for years and years and years, but you must understand how medical tourism works. You could give conversation. I use the example, slogans is not solutions. Song bites is not solutions. You have to have a comprehensive understanding of how these things work. But we can attract universities when we talk about the colleges, we can attract medical universities here in the same manner. We can also attract clinics and hospitals. I remember when I moved to Western, an area of circa 1993, when there was no hospitals, no schools, no police station, no fire stations. There was nothing there now. Now Western is listed, I think, in the top 10 safest, most sound, financially sound places to live in America. And that's within 3 years, they became a municipality. And so when you look at Western Florida, a lot of you is kind of very, very close to Sawgrass Mills. Just look at what Western did in 3 years. We've had a 40-year head start for them in Grand Bahama. They were in the middle of the swamp when I moved there. Mosquitoes, alligators, and a few of us as residents. But look at Western today. Why? Because they had visionary leadership. They had leadership that understand the way processes work and brought it together to form a wonderful city. And so these job creation initiatives is what is needed here for Freeport as a whole. We don't need to depend exclusively on the Grand Bahama Port Authority or for the national government to be able to do this. We can bring ideas to them in the clearest point and demand policies. Policies is what creates opportunities. Policies is what create opportunities. See, policies is what create opportunities for individuals to build their city, to build their island. And these are the things that we have to make argument about. On the job creation initiatives, again, what we have is a 21st century environment. In the 21st century, we are in the knowledge economy. We're in the knowledge-based economy. We're in the creative economy. We're in the resource economy. We're in the conceptual economy. These are all economies that does not require much physical resources. It requires us to learn how to think, how to utilize these resources. And so this whole concept that we need to have hotels, we need to have these other type of mega developments or mega investments is not so. In America, you will see that small business, not just America, in all developed countries, small businesses drive and sustain an economy. Small businesses drive and sustain an economy. We must create an environment for people to have small businesses. There's a new dispensation of businesses that you don't need a location. You don't need to have an office, a physical office location as required by the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Your local government representative has to be able to understand this, to be able to go to the Grand Bahama Port Authority and demand that a class of license be established for you to operate home-based businesses. How is it that where I sell my mine, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, for me to have any benefits under the Hawke's Creek Agreement requires me to go get an office space to park my mine, okay, so that I can get a license from them? How do I do that? They actually want me to find a space to leave my thinking, my thoughts, to whenever I'm shedding office. Well, there's a new dispensation. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. My mind is within me as a person. And there's many young people that has the opportunity to embrace this, but they've never been given the opportunity. They've never had anyone make the demands for them to be able to embrace this type of job creation initiatives. Small businesses. I'm working with a group of young people right now that is utilizing this knowledge-based economy. And there's a particular, I have one of them that's ready for graduation. A lot of you know them. I'm not going to mention the name right now, but next week or so you will be able to hear from her herself. A dynamic young lady that has I'm just totally impressed with her action, but I'm impressed with all of my students' action at this time. I am asking for the opportunity to take it out from the small confines of my home and their home and put it into a formalized environment, like in a technology enrichment area, where individuals can come and understand the knowledge-based economy, understand how to use social media to create wealth. understand how to develop websites, understand how to market individuals. If you take, for instance, a website nowadays, and if you teach an individual the simple steps of website development, there's billions of people on the internet, and there's hundreds of thousands of companies that are yet to even have a web presence. If we just teach our young people to create website development, in less than 6 months, they can be competent enough to go form their own business. And there's templates and all these other different things that they can buy. And they only need to pick up a phone and randomly call and give people a presence on the web. Just give them a price. So you call up and says, Mr. C. Allen Johnson, I see you're not on the web. For $99, I'll give you a good startup package that you can begin. And you only have to pay me $20 a month to do some simple things for you. And so that individual basically will find 100, 200, 300 individuals. And then when I say $20 a month, we're talking about for hosting, maintaining. If they could find, and hosting is a simple process of once you park. It's a website. I'm going a little too fast. I said I was going to take it slow. A website is nothing more than a digital catalog, a digital brochure of who you are. And so an individuals could say find 100 lawyers. They can find 100 lawyers who do not have a presence on the web and said, let me do a digital catalog for you. The same way you do a flyer or whatever, let me put that on the website for you. I will maintain this for you for $20 a month to make sure it's there, make sure that people can find it. Essentially, if they can find 100 of those individuals and charge them a $100 startup fee, well, you do the figure. $100 times 100 people is $10,000. Then once they design this flyer goes nowhere unless it needs an update. So essentially, just for maintaining it on a website, they will collect $20 from each of those individuals. 100 times 20 is $2,000 a month. After they have completed their work for the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, they'll make $2,000 a month. They've finished the work. They're just making sure, checking through alert or whatever, that these websites never go down. If the attorney needs an update, charge him an extra $20, $30 to change whatever he wants. He may want his phone number changed, whatever he wants. That's the type of business we're talking about. It is utilizing your mind. How is it now that I have a young person with a computer that's sitting under a tree in the park, that's sitting in their house, sitting in the front of the TV, running a business, need to have a location. We need to have people that understand these type of environment to agitate for the Grand Bahama Port Authority and for the national government to create the policies and put the rules and procedures in place for this to happen. And what happens is the technology enrichment centers that I want to put in first in East Grand Bahama and then the Bahamas and then in Grand Bahama as a whole will allow our young people to come into something they are already exposed to something they are already immersed in, and simply say, tell me how I can refine my thinking to utilize this to create wealth. That's what we need. We don't need no more computer rooms with a room full of computers. It doesn't do anything for our youth. We must teach them to embrace technology. They're already well aware of it. You don't see anybody in there. When you go to the computer classes here on Grand Bahama, you'll see mostly senior person that's getting first-hand acknowledgement of what technology is. Everyone else that has involved in technology, guess what? They are born digital. The millennials from 1978 to 2000, they are born digital. You don't have to teach them anything. In fact, you go look, I don't think very few phones, cell phones, very few tablets come with the instruction manual on how to add this, how to use this. Because if you don't know, they almost take the position that you shouldn't be using it. And maybe they believe that sooner or later there's going to be fewer of you than there is of us that understand technology. So we have to look at what is called a technology enrichment center to teach what technology is in the 21st century, how it integrates with our lives, how it integrates with their education and their learning, how it integrates with our business. It's simply put, last year in India and Pakistan, I think each of them graduated 200,000 individuals with advanced degrees. Listen to this very carefully. India, Pakistan, and China, they graduated, each of them graduated 200,000 individuals with advanced degrees. And so, cumulatively, your children are now competing with them on a global marketplace. We have an education that is defunct. We're teaching all the children in our education system by the same rules when each one of them have their own learning style and abilities. We must stop this madness. We must demand and use local government coming up in this on Monday. Remember to vote Johnson and the clock to provide me the opportunity to bring this to you. Test me on this. But we must change our thinking on the way we are doing things. I think Einstein said it's a sign of insanity to keep doing things the same way expecting a different result. Well, I'm telling you, you have the opportunity to do it differently. Tied into the technology enrichment centers is business development centers. You know, they are slightly different, but they are symbiotic in their purpose. The small business development center, technology enrichment center, is to make you aware of what it is and what's possible. The small business development center is to make what you have become to realize possible. The technology enrichment centers is to let you know what's there. The business development centers is to teach you how to utilize it for empowerment, to make sure that you have the resources such as funding. You know, we hear all the time that people say there's no money. You don't need money. Money does not make money. If you have $100 and I have $100 and we put it in the jar, we have $200. It does nothing for us. It is only when you take an idea and put it with money that money multiplies. So if ideas multiply money, then ideas has to be more valuable than money, because ideas are the multiplier. We must now teach our children to harness these ideas. Many of you have watched Shark Tank and what's the other one, Dragon's Den, and see how individuals stand up, make their presentation to those individuals with money, and have them fight for the opportunity to give them their money so they could make more money. Well, that's how business is run. You don't have two businesses putting together. You don't have one businessman putting another $100 with another businessman and said, oh, we have more money now. That's not the case. The simplest way to understand the power of money is very easy. If you have $1 and I have $1 and we meet and I give you my $1 and you give me your $1 and we part ways, we both leave that location with $1. If you have an idea and I have an idea and we meet and I exchange ideas with you, when I leave there I have two ideas and you have two. That's how simple it is. Ideas is what grows people. And so I just want you to understand that. So when you begin to hear talk about monies, there's no shortage of money in the world. There's not been anything lost. It's been redistributed. And so the key then is to teach our young people as well as old people, to teach people in general, teach Bahamians to develop their ideas in such a way that is understood and comprehended by those with money seeking to get more money. They're willing to share. You know, Dragon Den and Shark Tank shows you they're willing to take 10%, 15%, 5% of your business. And ladies and gentlemen, I put to you today, it's better to have 85% of a business than 100% of none. And so there's nothing wrong with giving up a small percentage of your business. There's a concept called crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is the ability for you to put your idea in the front of hundreds of thousands of individuals, millions of individuals, just refining your idea. When you're ready to go, in the Small Business Assistance Center, the idea is presented. You use the digital platform, just like in Shark Tank where they make their presentation to 5. The difference is you're now making your presentation to 250,000 people or 1 million people. If you're seeking $100,000, you only now need to convince 500 of them to give you $200 each to share in your wealth. Or you need to convince 1,000 of them to give you $1,000. Or 200 of them to give you $500. Out of the 250,000 individuals, it was impossible before technology for you to talk to 250,000. But technology now allows you to develop your business plan in such a clear and concise way. They can see the vision. They can see the opportunity for profit. They can see the opportunity for growth. And they will be willing to risk $200 with you, to risk $500 with you, to be able to achieve some level of profit for themselves. For those of you in the non-profit area, there's another method called hyperfunding. You know, I see a lot of people from, even the Junkanewers, and this is something the government does not seem to understand, that run around begging corporate citizens. And we all seem to want to cannibalize the same corporate citizenry. And so because the economics in the country has went down, more so in Freeport, there is less for the companies to distribute to you. So every time you're getting less and less and less. I'm asking you for the opportunity to put a technology enrichment center and a small business development center. So if you have a sports program, if you have a youth program, if you have a senior program, whatever it is, to give you the opportunity called hyperfunding to put together your plans, your idea of what you're trying to achieve to reach the entire world, and find those 1,000, 2,000 individuals that buy into your dream of empowering and helping others. If you have an HIV foundation, there is hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars available in grants, but you don't have access to it because you don't have the place to prepare the resources. You don't know who it is to send your presentation to. Let's together create the environment that allows you now to solicit the full HIV foundations around the world by making your presentation to each one of them in a digital form without ever leaving the Bahamas. We just need to have the leadership that has the understanding and the capability of building the environment for that to happen. There are groups of sports where soccer is their thing. Anything soccer, they will support. You have senior citizens where they have organizations around the world in the United States. I mean, we have a wonderful relationship with the United States that we have never used beyond shopping and begging from our leaders. We have a wonderful relationship. We signed some agreements about 5 to 6 years ago that allow certain tax concessions to companies that come to the Bahamas to do workshops and seminars. And we have, it's too extensive for me to go into it now, but we have never used it. We have not used it yet for the growth and development of Freeport. But I'm putting to you that if you have a soccer thing, if you have a love for the environment where you want to restore the mangroves, there are hundreds of millions of dollars available. You just have to be able to make the presentation to them in a clear and a concise manner so those mangroves can be safe, that you can follow your passion. You want to preserve the fish, you want to preserve the environment. I mean, whatever discipline there is, believe me, you are not in isolation in the world, that the only one trying to achieve it. There are some millionaires and some billionaires and people with resources. There's some people who will see your plan and simply say to you, you know what, I will send $20 towards your goal. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? If you can find 1,000 people out of the 400 million Americans to send you $25, you're $25,000 ahead, rather than trying to collect 1,000 or 2,000 you're trying to do right here locally. 1,000 individuals somewhere in America that believes in your cause, believes that you have a purpose, that can actually make a contribution to you. And it's possible, it's being done. I ask you to Google hyper, H-Y-P-E-R, hyperfunding. Just Google the word hyperfunding. For those of you that don't believe that businesses are started every single day, Barack Obama passed a legislation called JOBS, J-O-B-S. Unlike us, where it's a just over broke system, his own stands for Jumpstart Our Business Sector. Jumpstart Our Business Sector, that created this crowdfunding, legalizing it in America, for which Canada now practices it, Great Britain now practices it, Australia now practices it, the UK now practicing it. Why can't the Bahamas begin the process also? In the absence of the Bahamas practicing it, guess what we do? We go global, we go digital, and we'll go and reach into the yard that is doing it until the Bahamas leadership catches up to what the rest of the world is doing. And it's possible. Google crowdfunding, C-R-O-W-D, crowdfunding. Google hyperfunding for NGOs, H-Y-P-E-R, and see. This is not some fantasy. This is something that's been done. In the first 6 months of this year, crowdfunding has provided $96 billion worth of funding to businesses and startups. $96 billion. You have individuals that have asked for $10,000 to start their business and have raised over $1 million. People got so excited of their idea, for that $10,000 idea, and they've raised $1 million. You have people that have asked for $100,000 and have raised $200,000. I mean, you could just Google it and see, just look for oversubscribed crowdfunding. And so I ask you to, why can't we utilize, just have someone that understands this to development and growth of our country. And it happens here in Freeport. And so it is more than speed bumps, parks, and lighting. What you also have is, let me just move on from that. And so again, it just brings to, I just want you to understand that local government is your first level of voice. Your first level of voice in your governance. And it's important that you set the example that this is the level of accountability that you're expecting from local government. So when they come back to you in 2017, in fact, no, when they begin to observe of what you demand from local government, then they will say, hold on a second, I'm going to be on the tier above them. Wow, if they demand this from local government, what are they going to demand from me as a national leader? And we can do this. I've taken the opportunity to speak to my representative for the East Grand Bahama and most of you, Mr. K. Peter Turnquest, and he has shown receptive to working together to accomplish these goals, because he recognizes, from my perspective, that he is the voice of the people. He is my voice. I'm asking you to give me a higher level of accountability so that I can begin to put some of the things in place through examples and allow him to take those examples and express them in the House of Parliament. Let Mr. K. Peter Turnquest and Mr. Nico Grant for Central Grand Bahama and Mr. Darwell for Pine Ridge and Mr. Greg Moss for Marco City and Mr. Obadiah Wilshcombe from West Grand Bahama be able to stand in Parliament and say, hey, look what has been achieved in Freeport, and I think this is a workable model that we as a country ought to adopt. And ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know that all of these things are possible. And I ask you to call me if necessary, 225-6800, if you need more information on what I'm talking about. And I'm asking you to pick up the phone. If you don't live in East Grand Bahama, you have a friend, you have a family, let them know it is possible that this is possible for you to come into East Grand Bahama or come into Freeport and have the benefits of this. Because remember, Freeport was designed for the benefit of all Bahamians. If you live in West End, Freeport was designed for your benefit under the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. If you live in McLeanstown, Pennis Point, Lewis Yard, Williamstown, wherever you live on one of the keys, Sweetness Key, wherever you live, Freeport was designed for you. It was not designed for a small selected area or small group of people. It's a contract with you, the people, through the government of the Bahamas. And so I'm simply saying, when these things begin to happen on the local government level in Freeport, you will have the unique opportunity to come and partake of it. It's an obligation. We are obligated to allow you the opportunity to do this. We also would allow you the opportunity to create synergy with the other local governance that's in West End, that's in East Grand Bahama, to put together our resources, to bring these together for all of us, for the benefit of all of us. Because if you set up a technology enrichment center in East Grand Bahama, in multiple places in East Grand Bahama, in High Rock, in McLeanstown, in Sweetness Key, in multiple places in Freeport, in multiple places in 8 Mile Rock, and Deadman's Key, and in West End, and in Williamstown, and in Smith's Point, wherever you are, these all can be interconnected. They all share the common database, the same information, the same area that we have for the development of all of us. Again, because Freeport is only a small location in the bigger puzzle of things. And so we just have to demand more. But again, as I ask you, if you live in any constituency, if you're in East Grand Bahama, I am asking for your support. If you live in any other constituencies, call a family, call a friend, call a co-worker, call a church friend, call a church member, and simply say, hey, don't you live in East Grand Bahama? I've heard Mr. Cialan Johnson, Mr. Johnson on the ballot, and the clock. I've heard him say that if you afford him the opportunities, the things that he's agitated for the last 10 years, he will attempt to make sure it's done. But see, my extent of having these things done in the same manner that I'm speaking to you is not just about the money that will be given to local government. I'm going to be using these same methods to build the technology center, to build the small business development center, to build the advanced after-school educational centers. These are things that is going to be done. You have people like Dell and Microsoft around the world that want to show their thanks, their entrepreneurial thanks for their businesses. Because what it does, it creates customer relationship with you. If you were to make a proper presentation to Dell and they provide all of the computers in the after-school educational centers, do you know why Dell does that? Because each time that child sits down, they see the marketing Dell. So what Dell says to you is, we'll provide these resources for you for exclusivity, to let people begin to see how Dell works, how Dell uses. There's nothing greater than to have 5, 10, 20,000 people test your product. What type of business? Imagine on this island with 60,000 people. What would you as a business owner pay for 60,000 people to physically test your product to prove it's something that they want to buy for their home? What would you pay? So this, with Dell providing technology, is a small point. Hewlett Packard providing technology is a small point. Microsoft providing the office suites and the operating system is a small thing for them to say, look, try this here in the technology center and see that this is good for you. So when you move and transition out of the technology center, you'll think of Microsoft first. So this is not where people will say, oh, local government doesn't have the budget. That's where leadership comes in. Leadership takes you out of the budget. It takes you into the global marketplace for which we exist. And I put to you that local government is the first step for us to begin to achieve that. Would we have to also look at, let me just move through the list because time is running through. I'm going to give 3 minutes and then I'll have you begin to calling in for the last half an hour. The number will be 225. After the news, we're going to go to news probably in about 3 minutes. And so what we'll do is after the news break, we'll have you call in. The number is 225-6800, 225-6800. Prepare your questions. I'll ask them and answer them in the shortest period of time. But we're going to have safe community initiatives where we're going to use technology-enhanced community crime watch, where the policeman don't have to stand in the front of your door. Technology now allows them to police your neighborhoods without actually physically being there. It's called digital policing and crime fighting tools. From cameras on the poles to make sure as crime, they can watch, we as individuals for communities can watch, or the police can have access to it to be able to look at our communities day and night to see what is happening. And so what we also have on my agenda is alternative energy solutions and financing. There's a tremendous opportunity in the green economy from bringing bringing the opportunity for you to own solar energy and wind energy on your homes and other places. But the biggest thing that is necessary is for us to be able to have access to the capital to do this. If you need $10,000, to simply put in the solar energy, we need to be able to make arrangements so that you can have financing. So your light bill will now go to flat rate of $300 a month for 3 or 4 years, and after 4 years you have 15 years of free. And so we're going to take the opportunity now to prepare for the news break. I just want to thank the people. If you ever need to dress up, look down, look good, look smart, consider Esquire's shop right next to it, behind the Grand Bahama Port Authority. You need to have any watches fixed, you need to have any type of jewelry repair, consider D's watch repair, right there by the old Winn-Dixie building, right there in the hallway, in the walkway, the arcade, I guess they call it, right there on the main road. And ladies and gentlemen, whenever I'm hungry, whenever I need to just sit and chat, and I'm going to set a set time for you to begin to meet with me, not just as local government, win or lose, I'm going to start making Sias my spot, so we can sit on the porch and enjoy some cold drinks, leaded and unleaded, and some fried food or whatever type of food you eat, and begin to sit in Sias and have this conversation. You can go to Esquire, dress up, get your watch fixed so you can be on time, and then we'll all sit at Sias and have some wonderful foods and drinks. So now we'll take a break now for the news, and I'll speak to you shortly after that. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. I thank you for the opportunity for tuning in, and I ask you to call someone and have them join you right now in tuning into what is being said for you. Please call a friend, tell a friend. But most of all, I want you to understand that this will be available on social media for you by tonight, for those of you that missed the show, and for those of you that may want them to hear for themselves the possibilities. Take the opportunities to please call a friend, tell a friend. If you look for me on social media, on Facebook, I can be found. Just search for C. Allen Johnson. On YouTube, search for C. Allen Johnson. On Facebook, search for C. Allen Johnson. On Twitter, search for C. Allen Johnson or Critical Thinker on both of those mediums. On YouTube, search for C. Allen Johnson. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on YouTube, I'm on all the social media, but on those three major fronts. On Facebook, look for C. Allen Johnson or Critical Thinker. On Twitter, look for C. Allen Johnson or Critical Thinker. On YouTube, look for C. Allen Johnson, and you will find them. The address on Facebook is facebook.com/C. Allen Johnson 242. C. Allen Johnson 242, or just plain C. Allen Johnson. That's facebook.com/C. Allen Johnson. On YouTube, it is youtube.com/user/C. Allen Johnson. That's youtube.com/user/C. Allen Johnson. On Twitter, it is twitter.com/Allen C. Johnson. Twitter is twitter.com/Allen C. Johnson, and also Bahamas Digital. But just Google, if you're just on Twitter, you search. If you're on Facebook, you search. If you're on YouTube, you search. Or if all else fails, just Google it. And if all that fails, you can call me at 225-6800. I'll be happy to give you the exact location on where you can see this video tonight, and so that you can be able to listen to it again, and have individuals who live in East Grand Bahama to listen. But I encourage you for the next couple of minutes, for the next 15 minutes, to call whoever it is and tell them to listen. But best of all, most of all, you encourage them to go out and vote. Regardless of where you live in Freeport, I want you to go out and vote. Let me explain to you why every vote counts, and that we should let choice, not chance. You know, you often hear the people teaming up. Let me give you a little scenario on how very easily you could be duped into thinking you're voting for one way and you're voting for another. When you have individuals team up, what you have is you have them basically telling you to choose another person in absentia of understanding or knowing their platform. Just say, please vote for this other person because you're voting for me. If Allen C. Johnson is running in East Grand Bahama and he gets 10 votes, and person number 1 is also running in East Grand Bahama and they get 7 votes, and person number 3 is running in Grand Bahama, you know, they get another 7 votes. So Allen C. Johnson, candidate number 1, get 10 votes. 10 commitments of people going to vote for him. Candidate number 2 gets 7 people to commit who's going to vote for them. Candidate number 3 gets 7 people to commit who's going to vote for them. So what candidate number 2 does is encourage people to say, when you vote for me, you know, you ain't doing nothing. I'll just vote for number 3 also. Candidate number 3 then goes and tell his people, you know, after you vote for me, just go ahead and also vote for candidate number 2. So now what happens is candidate number 2 now has 14 votes, and candidate number 3 now have 14 votes, and C. Allen Johnson still only have 10. And so that's why I encourage you that we need the numbers. If you do nothing else, please encourage people to go and cast that ballot for Allen C. Johnson. It's Johnson on the, just look for Johnson on the ballot and the clock. Just because it is simple as that. If you want my voice to be heard for you in local governance, I need your support. Whether you live in East Grand Bahama or not, wherever you live in Freeport, in Freeport or in Grand Bahama, and if you manage to hear this on New Providence, I encourage you, if you know someone in East Grand Bahama and in the city of Freeport, to call them and say on Monday, take the opportunity, let's test Critical Thinker, let's test Johnson on the ballot, let's test him to see what he does, let's see if he's capable, because he cannot be no less capable than what you've had for the number of years going by. And clearly my experience has dictated that. You have never heard anyone call on the air. You'll have people say he talks too much, but I don't think I've ever had anybody call and says I'm wrong, from the host to anyone else. When they say I'm wrong, I call them back to state my position. It may not allow me to rebut them, but I'm well prepared to defend any position I have based on my level of competence. So ladies and gentlemen, please call individuals in East Grand Bahama and tell them, if they do nothing else, if they place 1 vote and only 1 vote, to please go and vote for Johnson on the ballot on this Monday, June 23rd. Let their vote count. Let choice, not chance, be the decision for what we go forward here in Freeport. But you're free to call in for the next 10 minutes. If you quickly have a question, I'll try to answer it at 225-6800. 225-6800. I was intending on being on until 2 p.m. today, but I apologize for that. I have something of an urgent matter that must be dealt with before the 2 o'clock deadline, so I must end today at 1:30. But I can assure you that next week we will be on from 12 noon to 2 p.m. and you can tune in on Wednesday from 1:30 to 3. From 1:30 to 3, I'd be happy to engage you then. We can have a conversation. We will be off the local government issue, and hopefully I can begin to tell you how you can participate into the growth and development as a local government councillor. In the absence of that, I will still tell you how to join me in holding not just local government accountable, but in holding our governments, including the quasi one we call the Port Authority, accountable. Let me move a section. I don't want to spend time on this because it's a little complicated to explain. But ladies and gentlemen, okay, one more please. I have a caller. Let me just take this call here. Go ahead, caller.
Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Alki here. Simple question. Where is the boundaries of your constituency? It runs from where to where?
The boundary starts at Sunrise and Call Road, and it goes everything south of Sunrise except for a section ranging from the roundabout that we call the Seahorse Village and ending at Below Road. They scoop that area out, but it goes all the way up until it reaches Churchill Drive, and then when it reaches Churchill Drive, everything to the north of Churchill Drive is included, ending at the base heading into High Rock.
So the section they scoop out. So are you responsible for the Williamstown area?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So they scooped that section out. Why is that?
Well, what happens was doing the boundaries cut during the last election. This is how they.
Pardon?
During the last election, this is how they moved the boundaries around in favor of whatever particular candidate they was offering. They put that in Central Grand Bahama. That used to be in East Grand Bahama, I think. I'm not too sure, but there's the way the boundaries is developed, and so it's simply easiest thing to do is to just check your voter's card from the last election, the same polling divisions, and everything still applies to it. So whatever, if you were in Central Grand Bahama during the last election, you will still be in Central Grand Bahama for your voting.
Hello?
Yes. Did you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, I'll go by my voter's card. I just thought you were covering that far.
No, but here's what you do. I want you to pick up the phone, and for those individuals that you know live on that side of the road, if you live in East Grand Bahama, remember, once I'm elected to local government, I am part of a collective of local government for Freeport. So you will be part of that agitation when I get into that room. I cannot agitate for East Grand Bahama in isolation for Freeport, for East Grand Bahama and Freeport in isolation from any of the other ones. We are working as a collective intelligence once we get into that room, and so they are going to be in there making noise for their particular area, and I want to be able to give them the information that is necessary to create the synergy to achieve what I'm trying to do. I don't want to put one technology center in East Grand Bahama and have them all rush there. I want a technology center in Williamstown. I want a technology center in Pintus Point and Lewis Yard to make it accessible to those individuals into the evening time. There's no buses that run after 8, so we need to have technology enrichment centers, satellite campuses in those areas so those people can have access to it. So my representation expands beyond East Grand Bahama, but I need East Grand Bahama to get me in the door.
Understand. Well understood. Because you don't actually fall in my constituency, but I will be lobbying and trying to get as much support as possible because I believe in what you're saying and what you can bring to the table. And I appreciate the fact that you submit yourself for running. And Godspeed.
Thank you so much, sir. But ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to call a friend, call a family member that lives in East Grand Bahama, and do not allow the vote for this one, and also while you're doing nothing else, vote for someone else. If you feel that they are competent, I encourage you to vote for them. If they're competent to do the things that they say, or even do the things that I'm advocating, to afford them the opportunity. I'm asking you to afford the opportunity because I'm the one bringing the platform. And so I said, afford me the opportunity. And so you may have made a commitment to particular individuals. Don't vote for the next person just because you decided you like one person. And so you're going to vote for that particular person just because you like that person. And so I ask you to please take the opportunity to encourage those that live in East Grand Bahama to vote. Call them, call a friend, call a family, call a church member, call a co-worker and say, hey, you live in East Grand Bahama, you know, maybe this is not being brought to Central Grand Bahama, maybe this is not being brought to Marco City or Pine Ridge. And so you have an opportunity to say, hey, let's see if he can encourage my people, once I choose this individual, to be able to embrace these things that he's saying. So I can have this in Marco City, I can have this in Pine Ridge, I can have this in Central Grand Bahama, because it's definitely that East Grand Bahama will be getting it. So call a friend, call a family, call a co-worker, call a business person, call whomever. But I just want you to be able to just afford me the opportunity to do some of the things that I talked about. And if you want to call, I still have a couple more minutes. 225-6800, 225-6800. But you know, my plan is to bring also, just for those individuals, I plan to address local and national parks. If you into parks, into the lights, and it's not exclusively, I'm not saying they're not needed. I'm simply saying if I build people, we'll be able to build those things. And if you want local and national parks, there's some national parks that fall into the area of East Grand Bahama. We will expand the park to make them senior citizen friendly. We'll develop a neighborhood cooperative gardening program, not just parks where we grow grass, where we grow foods. Okay, we'll expand the services of parks to include supervision and monitoring of these parks. I understand the need for parks. I understand the need for safety, for speed bumps and those things. Those all come under a safe neighborhood initiative. I understand the need for youth development. We'll assemble, you know, they may use the word think tank. We'll assemble a team of qualified individuals to develop comprehensive programs that will encourage productive lifestyle activities. We're going to develop a community youth leadership academy program. I'm working with the Alpha Phi Alpha program. Let me just give a plug for them. We had a graduation last night of our Alpha Males program. Males stand for mentoring and leadership equals success. It was a wonderful evening I had the opportunity to spend with the 7 graduates. They had the opportunity to leave there with some nautical suits. We provided them with a brand new nautical suits so they began to have to represent themselves in the community. They had themselves I can't remember the brand of the watch. Maybe one of the frat brothers could send me a text, but they had a watch so they could understand. They were representing them. But we are about developing youth. And if you check Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and see the people like W.E. Du Bois and Martin Luther King and Cornel West and all of these individuals, the influential people in the world, you will understand the ability of utilizing these social agencies, these people like Alpha Phi Alpha and the Alpha Kappa Alphas and the Deltas and the Sigmas and the Qs and this Phi Beta Sigma and Sigma Gamma Rhos and all of them. I'm sorry if I leave an email. If you begin to utilize and give them the resources, you will be able to amaze at the community that we can build. These are the people that we send out to school to educate and empower. Let's tap into the resources for that they bring back as professionals to develop our country. The Alpha Phi Alpha program has the Alpha Males program. We have a go to school, go to high school, go to college, which the Alpha Phi Alpha is going to be looking to implement in the next school year. We'll be looking to get people to go back to school, go back to college, not just utilizing in the actual classroom, but to utilize the digital classrooms. We can, those individuals that did not finish high school, we can put a digital environment for them to go back to school and graduate from school. For those who want to go to college that didn't get, let's create these enrichment centers so they can go to colleges without leaving the Bahamas in their part-time. Do you know it may take them 8 years. Let's say they go part-time. It may take them 8 years to finish, but the question is, what would they do if the opportunity is not available to them? 8 years later, they will not have a degree. Let's create an environment for them to be able to go part-time. And in 8 years, they'll have that degree rather than 4 years of full-time. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about moving into the 21st century. I'm going to work with the Port Authority to develop small business zone in each community, setting requirements that if you have a home-based business, these are the requirements that you have to meet. Okay, I'm going to work to lower the cost of establishing doing business, thereby facilitating ownership. We need to own this economy. Small business grows country. Every first world country that we're seeking to become is dependent upon small business, not mega projects, small business. For those of you that exist, and we know transportation is very important, I'm going to look to improve and expand the bus shelters. You know, sometimes people say, you know, Seattle, you're overlooking these things. I'm saying these things are natural. Okay, we talk about building people who will build bus shelters, who will build bus stop. I'm going to look to expand and improve the bus shelters, the ACAS community bulletin boards to let you know. I'm going to require late access to public transportation. I'm going to agitate for that. I'm going to develop an expanded bus road system, ensure adequate services and cross connections, so you don't have to run to get to a particular location. These are things that local government is supposed to act for and develop for. On energies, I can promise you, I will become your most strongest advocate for regulation of Emera, known as the Grand Bahama Power Company, because if we bring them under the bounds of ERCA, separate and apart from the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the Grand Bahama Port Authority can regulate the power company, but they cannot be above and superior to the laws of the Bahamas. The Grand Bahama regulation must fall under the confines of the laws of the Bahamas. And so if we have ERCA established that they are in charge of energy and all utilities, I promise you, you will see the service charge go away. Because in no developed country is there such thing as a service charge. Let me just use an example today. Imagine you ask me to cut your lawn, and I tell you $50. And when you come out to pay me, I say, good, you owe me $50 for cutting the lawn and $20 for the gas I use to cut the lawn. There's no such thing in business. But that is what's being done for us. But you must understand what it is, and you have to know what is the demand. I'm going to remove to have what is called solar lighting system. Ladies and gentlemen, those lights you see are not free. They're not free. You're paying them. They're included in your light bill. So we have an abundance of solar energy that charge batteries to run these at night. So we can now reduce the cost of the common areas that is necessary for all 8 people who do not have light in your neighborhoods. We can put light on every pole. Okay, you might start complaining that you can't tell the difference between night and day because there's so much light out there. And so we're going to look for community building. We're going to establish a community block events so that you can become involved and get to know your neighbors the way it used to be. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking at the time. I'm running out of time, but I encourage you, please, you can reach me at the same 225-6800 after I leave the studio. You can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Twitter, you can find me on YouTube. And I encourage you, please, to call somebody in East Grand Bahama and tell them that they only cast one vote, to please cast it for C. Allen Johnson. I'm on the ballot as Allen Cornelius Johnson with the sign of the clock, and I thank you once again for joining me. And I want you to look forward to me next Wednesday at 1:30, and we will begin our conversation on national development with or without the title of local government councillor. Thank you once again.